It's been 2 months since my last video. Sorry about the wait if you were anticipating anything. I've just been really busy taking in a lot of orders, and I finally was able to squeeze in time for Minnie throughout all of those. So this is Minnie, the Fennec Fox. Okay, let me just clear off my desk. We're starting off with the head like usual, and we're just gonna cover the foil ball in clay. Thin layer clay, doesn't need to be too thick. Make it as round as you can. I know I said before that roundness doesn't matter, but it's honestly kind of really helpful. When adding the snout, I like looking for a nice even part of the face so I don't have to worry too much about symmetry later on. And then I also like to keep in mind that the snout be kind of short because it makes the overall feeling of the character more cutesy. To give the face some definition and, interest, I'm going to add clay to the sides of the face to make the cheeks, clay to the top of head, to the top of the head, and to the forehead. Now our beautiful flesh baby head is in need of a mouth, so I'm just going to take my needle tool and sketch in where I want the mouth to be. For the eyes, I want them to be sculpted into the head, so what I'm going to do is draw them out and then take my X-Acto knife to cut out some of the clay and give it more of an in-depth kind of effect. In doing this, if I paint the eyes on correctly, I can create kind of a follow me effect with the eyes. It's very slight because the cut isn't deep enough, but I was able to do this pretty successfully with one other figure. Here's what that looked like on this character, Icy. You can see that the eyes kind of follow you as you turn the head, but since the eyes are tilted to one side, it only really works from one kind of angle. With Minnie, it comes out okay. You'll be able to see Minnie from more angles at the end, so you'll see how it works on her. Now she just needs some cheek fluff, so I'm just going to add triangles to her face and smooth them onto her cheeks. Minnie is a red fox / fennec fox mix, so I want her ears to be pretty big and noticeable, so I just make these triangles a little bit bigger than usual. It is very important to find a moment to poke a hole at the bottom of the head so that when you pre-bake it, air can escape and you don't have any air bubbles once you pull it out, because that sucks to deal with after all your sculpting. So just remember to poke the hole at the bottom of the head early enough too so that you don't squish any clay that might be at the top of the head. This actually isn't my first time making art of Minnie, and there was something about her that I remembered that I wanted to include in this sculpt, so I needed her mouth to be open for it. You'll get to see why I left it open at the end, but for now, here's the art that I made of her back in 2012, and this one is in 2014. I've improved since then. After adding hair to the top of Minnie's head, she is ready for pre-bake. It's at this point with all my sculptures I do that I like to draw on the face. I always do this because it's comforting to me to know that the face is looking how I want it to look, and it's not gonna look wonky once I paint it. It's just kind of like a preview to me of what the sculpt will look like, even though sometimes the direction of the eyes changes in the end. In Minnie's case, it does. When it comes to my clay commissioning categories, Minnie was ordered in the category. That just means your sculpt is going to be very small and chibi. Whenever I work on the body for these kind of figures that are quadrupedal, I like to keep in mind that their body be sort of bean shaped. Okay, so here's a tip if the way I sculpt interests you. Whenever I need to connect two pieces, one piece being baked and kind of dry and, squishy clay or unbaked clay, I like to use Vaseline to help me better secure the piece onto the dry piece to the sticky piece. Basically, Vaseline is just gonna help the clay cling better to the dry clay, because if you don't use it, it'll pop off and slide everywhere. Minnie's jelly bean of a body is now complete, and the reason her body's kind of shiny is because Vaseline is good for smoothing clay, and that's what I used there. With her body ready,
my body is ready.
The next step is to add her legs. I switch over to the gray clay because I want her to have a little bit more sturdiness in holding herself up. For posing purposes, I'm lifting one of Minnie's arms closer to her mouth, and you'll see why I do that later. Just like how I use foil to shape out a bean to make her body, I'm going to use foil again to shape out her tail, and then I'm just going to cover it in clay and smooth it down, then attach it to her. To help better secure Minnie's tail to her body, I use a toothpick to create a connection. I want the point between Minnie's tail and body to be more seamless, so I'm just going to add clay and smooth it in. I mean, this will also help strengthen the connection between body and tail, but that kind of goes without saying. These little chunky rice pieces that I've rolled out are going to be her paws. Even though I used the firmer gray clay for her legs to help keep her stable, I'm going to insert these toothpicks to give her more support. This just helps further ensure that she's not going to sink into herself. She is so close to being finished now. I just need to give her some toe beans and some fluffy details. Toe beans are easy. You just cut slits into the toes where you want them to be, round them out. I personally like giving my figures 3 toes. The last thing I want to do for Minnie sculpting wise is just give her some extra fluff around her tail and chest. Right after baking, before I'm going to prime, I look for any lumps or bumps on her and I sand them away. You'll see me priming Minnie, but in a second in the back you'll see more friends appear, and I guess this is a good time to mention that I have a Patreon. If you're interested in my work, other than what little I share on YouTube, you can join my Patreon. On there, I sometimes share what I'm working on for the day. There's a $5 tier that gets you first dibs on any commission slots. It also gets you into our Discord, which you don't need to leave if your pledge ever drops. The $10 tier gets your cute little face and name put at the end of my videos as a thank you for all your support. It comes with a neat little icon I make to represent you. I'll link my Patreon below in case I've piqued your interest today, but I'm not a good salesman, so please support me. Now that Minnie's all primed, we can paint her. I sketch her eyes back on as a guide for painting later, but I end up painting over them and they ended up changing, and it's whatever. Kinda like before, I don't really have much to say about the painting process, so you can just watch a fun little speed paint. An actual speed paint, like a literal painting in speed. Wow. it's me again. Just popping back in to say that there was a part where I noticed that Minnie's nose was kind of crooked, so I used my X-Acto blade to kind of cut down her nose to make it more even, and then I just painted over it. That's it. Carry on if you're watching the actual speed paint and not skipping 10 seconds ahead like I probably would. She's done being painted. One of my favorite parts of making these figures is the seal varnishing part, because whenever they get that satin coating, it makes them, you know, kind of shiny, half shiny, not glossy, but shiny, and they end up looking plasticky and they just look more like toys, and I love that part. The finish that I use for my figures is actually a wood finish. I get it at Home Depot. It was recommended to me by my friend. I say we're friends, but I met her at a convention. Her name is OMG Hanners on Instagram. Her stuff is so clean. She's a fellow sculptor, and I just wanted to give her credit because this stuff has taken me a long way, and I'm glad she told me about it. One of the especially cool things about this finish is that it makes the figures waterproof or water resistant. Basically, they can get splashed with water and the paint job will be fine and protected. And that's it. Minnie is 100% complete. The thing that I had remembered about Minnie was that she loves cookies, and so I kept in mind throughout the sculpt that I wanted her to be able to hold one in her mouth, and it worked out pretty well. Oh. Here's how her Follow Me eyes turned out. I don't think they're as strong as Icy's, but they're also not that bad. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it all the way to the end, or if you skipped around, I don't care. As long as you're hearing me thank you at this part, that's what matters. Leaving a like lets me know that you want to see more of this stuff from me, and if you feel inclined to leave a dislike at any point, I'd like to know why. I think it's worth mentioning that the last video got 83 likes, so there's at least 83 of you out there that want me to keep doing this. And finally, a big warm thank you to the Catchpong gang. Yes, their title keeps changing. No, that's not intentional. I don't know if it's gonna be the same for the next video. Let's hope so. Okay, bye.